so for all you people who've been liking that pigao video, I've been thinking, what am I going to make next? And I thought I would introduce all of you to the wonderful world of plantain. So what I've got here is 3 plantains in different stages of ripeness. Basically, plantain is a fantastic food. It's a superfood. It's one of the original foods that really contributes to our microbiome. I think that's how you say it. But, you know, people in the United States, sort of German and Irish descent, don't really eat plantains, but we Puerto Ricans do. So here are the 3 stages of plantain. Deeply green, and I'm going to try to cut into this in a little bit to show you what it means when it's deeply green. Mottled, not quite so green, and very ripe. In fact, when you want to make sweet plantains, which we'll do later, you want them at least half black. So I've got oil that's heating up here, and it's just regular plain olive oil. It could be peanut oil, it could be canola oil. Don't use your fancy olive oil to do this, okay? This is my very green plantain that I'm going to use to make tostones, which is a very starchy food, kind of like a fried potato, and we use the very green plantain for it. So I'm going to cut off both ends. What I like to do is just cut it in half. This is just easier to work with. And I do a slit along the side and another one kind of on the opposite side. And then I'm going to try to peel this sucker. And the greener it is, the harder, you see, it is to peel. And I want to show you when we peel a ripe one, how much easier it is. So, as you can see, I've been fighting this guy for some time now, but I've got him almost totally peeled. The greener it is, the harder it will be to peel. The greener it is, the less sugar it has, the starchier the taste will be. So this guy looks pretty good. This guy's got a few little pieces on him. No real harm if they get fried, but they, you know, aesthetically are not pleasant. And so now we're going to cut them on a diagonal. I'm going to put this guy back here to make sure it's nice and hot. Basically, you're just cutting it on the diagonal to increase the space that's going to get nice and crispy when you fry it. So we're going to go like that. And usually in a plantain, you should get, I don't know, anywhere from 6 to 10 tostones. You don't want to cut it too thin, and I'll let you know why you don't want to cut it too thin in a little while. And about 1/2 inch or so, and that's probably more like 3/4, is the right kind of thickness. So we've got here, it looks like they've got about 9. And I think the oil is pretty hot. I'm going to throw the first one in to make sure. Not hot enough. So I think it's nice and hot. And I'm going to stick all my little plantain chunks in there. And basically I'm going to fry them about 4 minutes or so on each side. Now, you may read directions that's or recipes that suggest that you deep fry them. You don't really need to have that much oil. As you can tell, you know, I barely have 1/2 inch of oil. It's probably more like 1/3 inch of oil. And that's really all you need. So you can watch them for a while, and we'll come back when I have to flip them over. All right, while we're waiting for our plantain tostones to fry up, let's peel the very ripe plantain to make. What we're going to make is we're going to boil it. Because when I was a kid in Puerto Rico, I grew up eating boiled plantain with a glass of milk for lunch. They should be very soft. Sometimes they'll turn black and not be soft. And that's a problem. I don't know why they do that. And then I like to taste them. They're okay raw. And you can see that they really are nice and sweet. Now, show you the difference in terms of peeling these. So these are going to peel pretty much right away. There you go. There's one. And there's 2. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take a pan of water. I was going to use this pan to squish the plantain, but we'll use something else. We're going to put some water in there. We're going to put these two guys in here. And we're going to put a little salt in, just kind of cover it. Put a little salt in and let them boil. And the wonderful thing that's going to happen when you boil them is they're going to turn bright yellow, almost psychedelic. And it's one of my favorite things of this whole thing. And now we're getting to this, really exciting part of making tostones, which is the squishing part. And so you may ask yourself, what should I squish the tostones with? Well, I used to do it with cans. But first you have the problem of putting the dirty can back in the pantry. But the other issue is most cans have a ridge, which makes it hard to get the right kind of purchase on the tostone to really squish them. So what I like to do is to use just a nice, little pan. This guy he's a Butte. And I've also used this guy, but he's busy doing another important job. So the tostones are about ready. You can see they've turned a nice golden color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them out and put them on a cutting board. And I'm going to leave the oil on and nice and hot because they're going to return as soon as I squish them. And I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to go squish. And boy, if you've had a bad day or you're otherwise frustrated, look at that. That's a fantastic squish. Because the thinner you get them, the crispier they're going to be. So we're going to do these and we're going to stick them in. And what happens when you squish them is you need more pan space. So you're never going to be able to you're going to have to fry it in 2 batches after you squish them. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm just sticking them in for like a minute. 30 seconds on each side, and they're done. They're going to go over here to drain. Now, there are recipes for making tostones that say after you squish them, you dip them in water and then you fry them. And, I just don't want all that spattering in my kitchen. So I skip that step, and I've never regretted it. So there it is, 30 seconds on one side. Look at these beautiful guys. I think they're very attractive. Sometimes they look like Australia. Perhaps you might say, well, actually, if I turned it around this way, see, there's Sydney. Oh, that's Melbourne down there. All right. I want someone from Australia to comment on that. Okie dokie. So here we go. We're going to take these guys out. And instead of making jokes about Australia, I should have been squishing the others, but now here we go. Squish. 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 Ah, wow, that was really satisfying. And squish. That's all done. In they go. And then these will be done in about, this one could use a little more squishing. Now, look at that. That's much better. And then I'll let them fry a minute or so. This one also can use a little more squishing. And I am done making tostones. And what I like to do is salt them right when they're nice and hot. When you salt things when they're hot, the salt, I think, sticks better. And then do these guys. Nice salting. It's also kind of fun to use a different kind of salt. I have a truffle salt in here someplace. There it is. I'll put a little truffle salt on the second batch. We'll flip them over. Look at that. And meanwhile, these guys are boiling away, or just about, they're simmering, and I can see a little bit more yellow in them now. And we'll look at them again in about 10 minutes. Well, what do you think, camera person? Are they ready? They look pretty good to me. Mm-hmm. And so after about 10 minutes, maybe even a little less of boiling, the ripe plantain you can see are turning a really lovely, almost a psychedelic yellow color. And that is a pretty good indicator that they're ready, but also a knife or a fork will go right through them. There's no resistance whatsoever. So these guys are done. Here they are, yellow, delicious, sweet. You know what I'm going to eat these with? Some country-style ribs with barbecue sauce. So the next time you all are having a barbecue with some good old boys and girls, why don't you sort of expose them to something new and, dare I say it, multicultural. Serve that barbecue pork with these beautiful sweet plantain. It's a marriage made in heaven. Definitely what I call good eating. So one more great way of cooking plantain is to wait for them to get really ripe, like this guy is. You can see he's at least 50% black, and he's also squishy, soft to the touch. So I've seen them get black but still stay kind of hard. You want them 50% black and squishy. And what we're going to do with this little guy is we're going to fry him up in butter as maduros, or sweet plantain. So if you can see, I've cut my plantain in half, and I've got the butter melting in the saucepan. Unlike green plantain, ripe plantains peel very easily, and what I'm going to do is cut these lengthwise so that I have nice strips. So I've cut each half into 3 or 4 strips per half. I think if the thinner they are, the more caramelization taste you'll get per bite. But if they're too thin, they'll fall apart. And I tend to be a lazy cook almost all the time, so a couple of these are probably too thick, but no matter. The butter is sizzling, so I'm just placing them in the pan one by one. You gotta be careful because they're slippery little guys. So I think I can get one more in the pan. There we go. So we'll do this in 2 batches. And now basically it's, you know what, it's a lot like cooking bacon. I've just turned the heat down to medium heat. And I'm just gonna turn them over and keep turning them over until they are nice and brown and beautifully caramelized. I actually think that if you let them go really black, which I'm not going to do, but you can. Maybe I'll do one, let it go real black. This might be a great alternative for bacon in like a vegan breakfast. Because if you let them go black, you'll get a little bit of smokiness, and you'll also get that little bit of sweetness you get from bacon, and less fat. Here they are sizzling away. Good little plantains cooking up. I'm gonna turn them over and see how they're doing. Not too much color there. Yep, a little more. That's pretty good. Again, not too much there. Not too much there. Nowhere near ready. I mean, I do like it with a lot of color, but not burnt. So we'll come back to them in a couple of minutes and see where we are. Making progress, I think. Oh yeah, that's looking good. And you know, one thing is, they're pretty much cooked after the first minute or two because it's a really nice soft plantain. And if it's not a really nice soft plantain, then you'll have the situation where no matter how much you cook it, it's not going to get the texture that you want. So really, we're just cooking it to the color that we want, to the amount of caramelization that we want, and I'm actually pretty close to where I like mine. This last guy in particular here at the end looks really nice. This guy's ready to come out, join a couple of his friends. Yeah. I'll leave this guy in and see how dark I can get it. And you can see I took this last guy out. That's about as black as I want them. It's a really great, healthy way to cook them, even though they're sweet. So there's this natural fruit sugar. You're not using a lot of fat, just a little bit of butter. And it is really, really yummy. There you have it.